Today, I'm going to be teaching the basics of design in Canva for non-designers. As work and social and technology evolves, there are more people now who need to be able to communicate visually, and Canva is the perfect platform to do that. The problem is that not everybody is trained in foundational design skills. But that's okay, because in Canva, it's super easy to get started with very little. They have really raised the bar to make design accessible to just about anybody. And so what we're going to go through today are just some of the basics of not only navigating Canva, but also some of the things that we should be thinking about as we're putting a design together. My name is Jen, and I'm the co-founder of OSNAP, a Canva partner agency. But I've also been working with Canva for the last 7 years, teaching and enabling teams to use Canva so that they can do more outside of their design departments. My background is in design, and I have been a design leader for almost 20 years. And what I have seen is when you are able to enable teams outside of the design organization or the creative organization to tell stories and to make their content visual, you really get more engagement, you get higher levels of success, and it's just a really wonderful way to put your brand and your story out into the world. So what makes for a good design? This is a kind of a loaded question because good design, there's a lot of opinions about it. It is in some ways subjective. But I think if we get to the root of what makes for good design, it's really half wonderful story, a really good quality story that we're telling. And the second half is truly just organization. It's making sure that the visual content that we're putting down on the page is organized in a way that somebody can ingest. So having a good story and framing it in a really organized way are, in my opinion, the most basic foundations of what makes for good design. And if we can get that down, then the rest of it is really just editing and kind of evolving it with what our taste levels are, what the taste level of the audience that we're serving is. Today, we're going to be going through a few different topics. So we're going to go through the workspace, making sure that you've got everything where it needs to be so that you can access it quickly. We'll be talking about workflow, which is really important because sometimes we can get in over our heads. So when we have a methodical way that we want to work, it can really help us to collaborate well, to be really efficient, and to get the most out of our design work. And then to work smarter. So what are some of the cheat codes and hacks that can help you get more done, help expedite work? And then, this was for a session that we did live. So we won't be doing QA in person, unfortunately, but if you have questions, you can always shoot them our way, or tag Canva because they're so great at responding to questions from their users. So, there's plenty of support out there, and I can cover some of the ways that they have support, areas within the tool as we go through. So we're going to start with the non-designer workspace. And the spoiler here is this is just how everyone should work. This is not specific to non-designers. There's no hack here in the way that this is set up. This is how designers work. This is how anyone who wants to be efficient should work. So I'm going to leave the presentation and we're going to jump now right into Canva, and we're going to start going through kind of that workspace and what it should look like ideally in order to stay super organized. So this is Canva's homepage. You can see on the left here, we have our toolbar. There's also a slide out menu that you can either collapse or expand here at the very top. And then as we go down, there's our projects, which are organized in a number of different ways. So we can view them by folder, which we'll be going through in a minute. You can just see all of the loose design tiles, and you can see there's a little toggle here so that we can see it in whichever way is most helpful for us, depending on what we're looking for. We also have brand templates, images, and videos. So they've kind of categorized some of the things that we might need quickly already into some of these menu items here. And then if we go back to the homepage, you'll also see that there's this search bar. So there's a lot of different ways to access our content once we get into Canva. Going back into projects, I'm going to dig in here now for a minute, because when we're thinking about our workspace, just like any other workspace, just like our computer or any other piece of software that we're using, we really want to keep things organized so we know where to find things, have a naming protocol that makes sense to us or to our organization, so that when we're looking for something later, or when a team member is looking for something later, it's really easy for them to find. So my favorite way to use the Canva projects section is by using the folders tab here, because this is like a typical library science type of organization. We've got everything the way we would see it on perhaps our computer. I would hope our computer. But they're all named with a naming convention here. So they all start with the name of the brand, and then they have a name after that gets into a little bit more specifically what it is. So this is the On Now Music brand. This is the group parent brand. This is the news organization. And then within that, we have some stories, we have brand templates, and then we have brand assets. And even within those now, you can see there's icons, elements, photography, and logos. And if even in photography, we wanted to organize them by shoot or by date, we could do that as well. And why this is important is because when we get into the editor later, we may want to use some of these assets. And if we have them really, really clearly organized, it's going to be easy to grab them quickly and to make sure that we're using the correct assets for the project that we want to complete. You'll also notice that you can start to see like a little breadcrumb trail or a snippet here of what's in the folder along the left. And there's a breadcrumb trail along the top. If we star these, they will also then show up later once we're back on our homepage in our starred bar on the left side. So if it's something we're going to access over and over again, we can give ourselves a little shortcut here so that we can come back to it over and over. So that's the folder structure. As I said, having this set up in the beginning is really helpful, because also we'll want to start saving our designs into these folders. So as I am creating templates and designs, I may want to save them into this brand templates folder as I go, so that I always know where to come back to them. Because once we start producing a lot of content in Canva and we're only, maybe we don't have any folders set up, we're only really looking at them from this tile perspective, which can make it a little bit tricky to find exactly what we're looking for, especially if we have lots of versions of things that may look similar in a tile, but there is a language that, the languages have been translated differently, or there's nuances of them that are different. So the folder structure is really important to make sure that we've got that set up from the get-go. There's the templates tab here. This has all of the templates that are available natively in Canva. So when you come into Canva, they have a creator community who's creating, and the Canva team themselves are creating these templates all the time within all of these different categories, which are a great way to get started. So you can see that we can click through some of the shortcuts. They've already have sizes predetermined here. So it's really easy to also find a template whenever we need it. As a place to get started. For sake of getting ourselves organized, I do want to go into the brand kit, because aside from having folder structure, brand kit is probably the second most important. And that is because we are always going, if we're working within a brand, we're always going to need to make sure that we have our logos, colors, and fonts so that we can keep things consistent and that there's no, like rogue assets coming in, because the thing about brand is the more consistent we are, the better it resonates with our customers or clients or audiences. And so we really need to make sure that we are staying on brand along the way. And that can be really hard when we have to type in a code for the color every time or guess if it's the right font. So this is the best tool that Canva has to kind of shortcut and make sure that we're always going to be staying on brand. And it allows us some really great, kind of like shortcuts and hacks once we, get into that working smarter section. So I'm going to just open one just so you can take a look. You can see there's some logos, colors, and this one doesn't have a whole lot in it, but we're going to build another one out here. So you can see each of these though it's got its own kind of subset. of colors and logos in here. So each one is unique. So it's nice because if we have sub brands that all sit with under, you know, like a media group or something like that, we can separate them out so that they're each unique. We're going to go into the Elm Financial brand. So in this instance, you know, we're maybe creating some assets on behalf of Elm Financial. Maybe they're an advertiser, maybe they're a partner. And we want to make sure that we have everything for their brand accurately represented from the very beginning so that we don't make any mistakes when it comes to color selection and things like that. So we're going to go to add another logo here. You can see there's one already in here. This has already been partially populated, but I'm going to show you how we add some things in. So we go to the top here and we can add a new logo, and we're going to upload a under Canva demo, the Elm brand, and we're going to select a logo. We're going to select the light version of the logo because we already have the dark one. So now we have both of them in here. Pretty helpful thing that Canva will do is it will already give us a preview of colors that it has found in the logo itself. So it may say, these look like they're colors that are in this logo. Do you want to add them into the color palette? So this saves us some time. We've already added some colors in here. So we're going to remove these. But it is really nice. So if you want to shortcut that way, you can. I would say make sure you're double checking to make sure that the hex codes, which are these codes here that represent the color formula, are correct. But it's a really nice way to get ahead on the colors. The other thing you'll notice here is I've uploaded these as SVGs. Now, being a non-designer, likely you're going to be provided these assets by a designer. So I would request an SVG, and the reason that you should do that is because SVGs are infinitely scalable. It means you can make them as big as you want, and they will not pixelate because they are vector. The other thing about SVG in Canva is that the colors are editable in Canva. So it's a preference to use an SVG because then you're always going to be able to manipulate the color should you need to turn it to an all black logo or an all white logo, or flip flop because, maybe you need it to go from a light logo to a dark logo, depending on what the background color is. So, it's a nice, way to be flexible with those elements is to have it in the SVG. And then you also know the quality is going to be as high as possible. Now for colors here, you can see we've got already a color palette started. This is the full color palette. We can add additional color palettes here, which is really nice. So if we want to just have a subset of these colors, we could do that. Or we can add new colors. So let's say, we have, another gradient that we want to add in. We could then select this. This is going to maybe be our yellow gradient. So we'll type our yellow code in, and then maybe it goes into that lime. So we'll do 2, 3. Okay, now we have a lime gradient here as well. We can name this here, and now we've added an additional color in. So, really nice way to be able to add gradients as well as additional colors. And you can see here when we add a color, there's an option for CMYK. So it's going to by default be an RGB hex code, which is intended for screen use. RGB is red, green, and blue. So CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and K stands for black, which is kind of confusing, but those are for print. So we want to make sure in some cases, if we're going to be producing print, that we not only have the hex color identified here, but we also click this add CMYK, and Canva's going to give us a recommendation on what that CMYK color should be. But if in your brand guidelines this has been identified, you should type this color formula in replacement so that there is accuracy when it is printed down the line. So there's 2 types of color here that get used in the color palette. RGB being for digital, CMYK being for print. Next, we're going to start selecting fonts. So again, we're just giving ourselves shortcuts of all of the things we know we're going to need later. We've already populated in some fonts here, so we're all set, but I'll show you that you can either upload a font here. So if you have a font that is not native to Canva, you can just upload it if you've purchased a license for your font. You can pop that right in. Or you can click into each of these and select the font that you would like to assign for your brand. So in this case, it's Roca 2. If you click this little caret, you can see that there are different weights here, so we can identify which weight we want to use. And we can then change also the size and whether or not it is bold or not here. So we can start to make some of those delineations. If we have a different font for our body copy, this is where we would choose Lotto to be our body copy font. We could choose our default size for that as well. And now we also have a shortcut for that. As we go down, we can also add our brand voice. So if there's some prompting language that you want to add in around your brand voice, this will help with some of the AI tools that you may use in the editor later. And then we'll go down to photography and graphics. So this is these are sections where you can start to populate assets that you're going to be using regularly. And there are two ways that we can do this. So the first is to just upload, right? So we can upload some folders. I've got folders in this, files in this folder. I can select which ones I want to bring in, and it can populate them in, but this is going to all be loose photography. So they're not organized by shoot date or by category. They're just going to be a large library of images. On the other side of things, if we wanted to have them be more organized, we could upload folders of these images or icons into Canva, and then we could link the folders into the brand kit. And as we add to that folder, it's linked, so it will update in the brand kit as things are added along the way. So that looks like this. We're going to link a folder. We're going to go, and this is actually a perfect example of why having organized folders is going to really be helpful, right? So we need to find this folder of icons. So we're going to go to all. We're going to go to our advertisers. We're going to go to Elm Financial Brands. And then we're going to go to this icons folder. And this is the folder we want to link in. And now we can see that it's linked our entire library of icons that are in this folder. Let's go back over here. So we could have multiple folders linked in here if there were different categories of icons that we wanted to bring in or different colors. So there's two different ways we can add graphics, icons, and photography. We'll also just upload, let's just upload our graphic mark in here so we have that as well. So if there are other elements that are just little vector shapes or graphics, we can bring them in also. And then there's a section on the bottom for charts. So if we have colors that we specifically want to use for our charts, we can start to designate what those are going to be here, so that when we build a chart later, we don't have to go in and select all of them ourselves. They'll already be predetermined based on what we've decided using this color picker. So if we have a chart later with different bars or a pie graph, these would be the colors that we would use for data points to make sure we have enough colors, because perhaps we need twice as many colors or are in our palette in order to show, 12 data points. So this is a great way to pull some of those. Okay, so we have our brand kit set up. We can also share a brand kit if we need to. And we can duplicate brand kits. So if we need to make a variation of this, we can also do that. But you can see there's like a little shortcut menu along the side. And we've got all the tools that we need in order to begin designing. So next, we're going to go in and we're going to begin to look at what this looks like within a workflow. Alrighty. So the next section is our non-designer workflow. And what that means is thinking about how we want to get the work done. So really, it's just our upfront planning. And my advice in just deciding what the right workflow is for you or for the project is to start analog. So I really like to go in and start to jot down my ideas. So I will take a piece of paper and a pencil and I will put down a list of all the things that I need to accomplish for this design project. Maybe I need to research and ideate. I need to come up with a copy outline. I need to write my draft copy. Scheduling the publication of things. I need to think about like when things are going to be released, and on what channels. I need to find photos. And then I need to go into the layout of the design and I need to produce it for video and social and maybe some ads. And then after all that's done, I also need it in Spanish. So here's kind of everything from my head down on paper, right? This is a great way to start because then we can start to organize and decide what is the right order for this? What should I do first, second, and third? And at what point should I really be, coming into Canva and getting started? And I'm going to show you a workflow because a lot of this we can actually do in Canva using their multi-doc, which was not always, we could do these in Canva before, but they weren't connected in the same way. So it's really nice that we have now a multi-doc functionality within Canva where we can, in one file, have our whiteboard, our doc and sheet that has the outline of and draft of our story. Then we can start to work through the various designs and sizes, and we can translate once that's all done at the end so that we can get ready for publishing. So this is what this workflow translates to using the multi-doc in Canva, which I'm personally very excited about because I like having things all in one place. So we're going to go back to the homepage, and I have created a brand template for go into brand template for a whiteboard. So brand templates are designs that we have saved as a template, knowing that we want to use them on a repeat basis. So aside from just workflow, this is a little bit of like an efficiency hack. If I'm always going to use a whiteboard, and I know what the elements in the whiteboard are that I'm going to want to use, I can save it as a brand template and then always come back to the brand templates and start from this point. And when I do, it just makes a copy. So if I say use this brand template, now I have a copy of my whiteboard. And I've got an overview here of a space where I can start to brainstorm and think about some story ideas for the piece of content that I want to produce. So I've already kind of jumped ahead a bit and prepped. So let's say we're doing a story and we've got a few different concepts here. One of them's on technology. Let's say this is the future tech trends. Okay. And I've got a few different categories here. So I've got smart living and I've got a few different like headlines that I'm thinking about. So we'll pop those in. Let's see, maybe wearable devices. I've got some stickies. And the wonderful thing about, doing this in a whiteboard is you can have lots of collaborators come in. So if there are other people who are, also kind of brainstorming, different ideas, they can come in, they can vote. If you go on the side panel here, you can see there's some like little stickers that we can use to say, oh, this is actually the story that I want to use. We can also use other elements that are available to start to fill in. So, let's say I want to do wearable devices. I can start to already pull some of those, and get some ideas of what maybe the content will look like, and get ahead of even my photo sourcing down the road. Let's see this. We've also got smart living. Okay, so now we've got some smart devices for home. I can pull those in here as well. And I can pick from the Canva library of stock photography natively in the platform without having to go out to a stock site. I have it all right at my fingertips here, which is super nice. Let's do transportation. Okay, because it knew what I meant. Okay, and then we'll bring that in. Great. Now we've got an overview of our stories. So we've got 3 story ideas, 3 themes. We've got some headlines for each of them. We've brought in some images, so we have some ideas of what we want this to potentially look like. And now what we can do is we can ask for it to take the content from this and transform it into a doc. So we don't even need to take this and move it into a doc ourselves. It will do that for us, and we can ask for it to do an outline, detail and outline for a story on tech trends. Okay, and then let's hit transform here, and we'll wait for the magic to happen. And it can move this over for us, which is wonderful. Okay, so we'll open that doc. And now we've got everything from our whiteboard now in a document format, in an outline format. So it's already been prepared for us here. And this is where we can start to look at the multi-doc. So if we click on pages at the bottom, you can see there's a little plus sign, and then there's also this caret. So when we click the caret, it's going to give us options for what types of docs we want to add into this same file. So I'm going to select a sheet, and I'm going to go to design, and I'm going to pull in a social media calendar. Replace the current page. Now I've got my story outline, and I have a social media calendar that I can start to build out for when I'm going to maybe start publishing some of these assets in various places. And you can see this is already a pre-set up template that Canva has provided. So it's really nice because we can just edit this to fit our need and strip out anything that does not apply. But we're already kind of ahead of the game because we didn't have to design or structure this. It's already most of the way there. And then the next thing we can do is start to design the assets, because we've got our outline, so we know what our headlines are going to be. We've got our calendar, so we're going to add another doc type. And so I would like to add, let's see what happens when we go to more. We're going to do an Instagram post, and I will let's do this one here. And again, let's go up and actually, you know what? Let's go into our brand templates, because I think we've got a template we could use. Okay, so we've got a template. It automatically resized it. So this template was at a different size. It resized it for us, which is awesome. And now we can start to edit this template to fit our need. So this is why it was really important for us to get the brand kit set up. Now that we're in the editor, we have access to all of our brand elements. And you'll notice right now it's set up to the on now group, right? So this is where we can toggle between our brands. So even in one design, we can go from one brand to the next over the course of the designs. We're going to select on now news. We're going to select this brand kit. So you can see now I've got the brand colors all right here. If I go to design and styles, I can also generally just apply all of my brand fonts and all of my brand colors to this design immediately. And every time I click it, it's going to give me a new variation on how that combination might look. I can manually edit these as well. So if I want to change this out, there's a toolbar at the top where I can do more like finite changes. But I suggest always, as a non-designer, starting with the toolbar on the left, because we took the time to set up that brand kit, we have a lot of shortcuts here available to us. We can shuffle the color. We can bring a logo in. We can start with a headline that's already formatted properly, and bring in a headline that already has the correct fonts. So there's a lot of really nice features to having this along the left here. And this one does not have photography. But if we went over to the Elm brand kit, you'd see also our photography has all populated in, our graphics have populated in, and those icons have populated in. So depending on how robust your brand kit is built out, the more you have available to you once you get into the editor, because it'll all be right here like a shortcut. For anything you don't have though, so we're going to go back to On Now News. For anything that you don't have, that's where we're going to start to tweak it ourselves, using more of those finite details. So let's say we want this to be red. We've got this editing bar at the top where we can edit color. You can see our color palette is already pre-selected for us, so we don't even need to worry about picking the right color. We have it already for us at the top. If we want to change out our headline, we can go over and let's go and grab this headline and we can pop a new headline in. We can go back up to our editor and choose to make it all uppercase. There's a text box here that allows us to change the format of the text. So, really easy to change the size or to change, the length of the text box. We'll make this just a hair smaller. We can bold things here. We can change the alignments. If we want to adjust any of the details of the spacing on the type, we can change letter spacing and line spacing here. But this is already all preset, so we're pretty much good to go. Let's change out our image to one of the images that we had selected for the whiteboard. So if we go back over to elements on the left, this is where we can find a whole library of really great elements. We have different shapes, graphics. You can use AI to generate images. There's stickers. There are frames, which will automatically crop images into the shapes that you want. There's video content. This is where those charts are available. If you want to create a chart, and you can edit the data points, and those colors will appear and populate your chart. There's polls and quizzes. I mean, this goes on. And this is all things that you wouldn't have otherwise had to find in a stock library and imported in. They're all native, to Canva, which makes it super easy to use. You'll also notice that there's a recently used section here. So we can see these images that I just had pulled for our whiteboard just a few minutes ago. So the images that I already wanted to use are available right here, and I can even just pull that in to my design. And because this is a frame, it automatically crops it to the correct shape. You can see these little bars that are flat along the edges. They manipulate the cropping of the image, so we can adjust the crop to make sure that it fits properly. Again, a lot of this is really just organization and thinking about, are all the borders the same? Are these all aligned together? Is it neatly organized? This could also line up. You could see this little line that comes up to help us with some measurements around the frame of this, so we can have some idea of alignment here, which is really nice. We can make this bigger, and you don't have to hold down anything. Everything just scales proportionately, which is the way it really should be. And now we have a design within just a matter of a few minutes, without having really done a whole lot. So it was really quick to go from ideation to design in just a few minutes. And now let's go ahead and resize this. Let's go more square. Okay. So I'm going to just copy and paste into this one. You can see I have all of it. I'm just going to scale down. I'm going to get generally in the center as best as I can here. We'll start all the way on this side just to get, again, our framing of the space about right. Things do not have to be absolutely pixel perfect. We're just doing our best here, right? Like, being a non-designer does not mean that everything has to look like it was perfectly designed. We're just getting as close as we can. Because the most important part is it organized and is the story clear? We've got an image that tells a really good story. Our headline is clear. It's legible. The date is smaller because it is less important. The logo is slightly smaller, but still substantial enough where we can read it. We've grouped things together that make sense. So we've got story, we've got organization, and now we've got it in a second size, which is really nice. And this is video. So I'm going to show you a little shortcut on how to get this animated quickly, right? Because we need to have everything move. So I've selected everything on the artboard. I'm going to click animate. And I'm going to go to page. And I'm going to use Magic Animate, which is probably one of my favorite features because it's going to make a recommendation on how everything on the page should move. I don't have to select multiple elements and give them different assigned movement patterns. I can just say, can you just tell me how you think the whole thing should animate? And it's going to give me some different recommendations on what that looks like. It's suggesting bold, but it's giving me some alternatives. So this one's elegant, energetic. I actually really like energetic, professional, digital. It's a little too much, right? So we got all these different examples, okay? Energetic, I think, is my favorite. So I'm going to click energetic. And now you can see there's a little play icon at the bottom of this tile that indicates that it is a motion piece. And we can click at the top here to get a preview of what that looks like. And last, we're going to translate. So I'm going to take this and I need to translate now for Spanish. So I am going to ask for it to translate. I'm going to select the language that I want. We had said Spanish. It's going to keep everything the same. And we want to apply it to both pages 3 and 4. Because there's 2 designs here. I mean, we could do the whole thing actually, because we've got our outline too. Let's say we want to do the whole thing. And then we're not going to translate this existing design. We want to keep our English version. And we just want to make another version that is Spanish. So we're going to translate. And we're going to open that multi-design. Now you can see there's always going to be some things to adjust because we're really looking at different length of language. So it's always something to consider that we're going to have to shift things around to make sure that the language fits because it's going to be different length. But took me just a minute to adjust that down. And you can see everything has been translated now into Spanish. Here's our ad in Spanish. You can see that some of our accent marks are a bit tight. So this is a really good reason to come back to that spacing tool that I had mentioned a little bit ago, because we might want to add some space between the lines to make sure that there's a little bit more room so the accents are legible. Then we can just stretch this out a bit. That looks good. Maybe we shrink it up. Okay. And same thing on this one. We can go longer. We can add a little bit of line spacing just so we can see the accents. And now we have a version in Spanish. At the top, we have the title of the file. So this is where naming comes in. Again, really helpful. So this is On Now News. This is our story outline. And this is our Spanish version. So we'll go back and name the other one as well. But this is our Spanish version. And then we would go into the file section. We'd move it to a folder. Go to all projects. On Now News. We can create a new folder for this. And we can move this into the folder. And now we know where it's been saved. The last thing I'll show you is how we can export this out. So, we talked about publishing. We've got a schedule here of all of the places that we need to publish this. So when we go to the top where it says share, we have the ability to publish this in a number of different ways. We can download it. So we have the ability to choose a file type. Because this one is a video, we can download it as a video, or a GIF. If we wanted it to be a PDF or a JPEG or a PNG, we could do that as well. We have the ability to also, let's choose JPEG so we can see the quality. We can change the size or the quality here to make sure that we can have everything be crystal clear. And then we have the choice of which pages we want to export. Aside from download, if you click on see all, there's a lot of really great options here, and they are a bit tucked away. So it's a really great way to see if there is some other opportunity to be designing quicker or more efficiently, and getting things out into the world. You can connect all your social channels, and publish directly into the social channel. So you don't need to download and upload into your Instagram. You can just publish it directly to your Instagram. You can also schedule it, so that it posts, at a specific time and date. If it's a print piece, you can print with Canva. And then if this is something that you want to reuse over and over again, if you're going to use this exact design and just switch out images and copy, and you want this to be a template that you're able to reuse, then you can also publish this as a template. So you can go to brand template and you can choose the folder that you want to save your brand template in. So we had made some of these before as well, right? So we have a brand template folder, so we know where all our templates are. And we can save this so that we've got it for reuse in the future, which is a really great way to not have to start at scratch. We want to be able to have a starting place, and the templates that are already pre-branded are a really great way to do that. So that is the overview of our workflow. And next we're going to be going through some of those hacks and tips and tricks. Alrighty, so our last section here is working smarter as a non-designer. Again, this kind of applies to everyone. There's a lot of shortcuts we can take, and even designers take these shortcuts. So I'm really just kind of spilling our top secrets to you. But the important thing here is that we don't have to always start from scratch. So we already got a little bit of a sneak peek at some of those templates. But I'm going to take us into the templates and show you how you can leverage some pre-existing design to get you 50% of the way there. And then you're really just filling in that story portion and just neatening things up. I'm also going to go through some of the AI tools and the Magic Studio so that you can see some of the tooling that Canva has created that creates, it's like a built-in designer workflow. So it's like having a designer at your fingertips through some of the tools that they've created. And also their, Canva AI, generator, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to jump over back into, and I'm going to start in the templates library. And I previewed this in the very beginning, but if you don't have brand templates yet, this is a really great place to start, because not only can you get inspiration for how to lay something out or how to organize something, but you can also just get a jump start on your design. And sometimes that's a really, really helpful tool. Even designers, it's like steal like an artist. Like sometimes you have to borrow something to get going because it starts your brain thinking about what it is that you want. And sometimes you'll start with a template and it may end up looking entirely different, but it gets the juices flowing and it allows us to start somewhere. Because when you have a blank page, it can be really overwhelming sometimes. So going into the templates library, as I said before, there's a lot of different ways these are organized. So if you have a specific type of media that you need to build for, they're already predetermined here, which is really nice. And when we click on these, the examples we get are excellent. So there's amazing templates in here that are available for us to use. Presentations, same thing, so depending on what it is that you need, likely there is a really good starting place in Canva for you. The thing that I would also spend some time on is, just search and ask it for something in particular. I like to use search terms like, here, let's actually go back for a second. Presentation, modern. I like to give it what it is, the style that I want. But maybe it's a report or corporate. And I like to give it some of those keywords because the way that these templates are organized in here are by tags. So if I can give it some clues about what it is that I want to create, it'll start to give me some really nice results. I can see already that this is a little too corporate, so I'm going to take that out because it gave me a preview so I could edit myself a bit. And now these are presentations that are modern reports. So I know they're going to have data. I know that they're structured in a way that's going to talk about, things that are typically reported on, right? So you can see here, there's a lot of data, and visual graphics here that are, more like infographic style. But I can look through and find something that's gonna look like it's right for me. The other thing that I would suggest is going into some of these predetermined categories like social media or business. I like social media because they have some kits here that already have a few key sizes. So it saves you even the trouble of having to resize your template, and it gives you a few designs that fit a singular look, without you having to go through and decide how you're going to change them or even avoiding making them all look the same. So let's open one of these and take a look at how we can leverage templates, and ensure that they're on brand and we can use them really efficiently. So let's get into the hacks. So we've got this template. You can see it's got a few different types of pieces that are included. I want to customize the whole set. So we're going to come in. I'm going to use the Elm brand for this one because I've got, we added our photos and everything in here. So we've got some really good assets available. So, and it kind of looks like Elm a little bit. So, if you find templates that fit your brand, already that look like they're natural to your brand, it really makes it even easier because then you really truly are just shifting, the colors, to be more accurate and the type to be more accurate. And we're going to do that in the design tab here. And we're going to click on the styles. And we're going to click on our colors. So we can keep clicking this until we get the color palette that we want. Let's say, I like that. That works. I can tinker in a minute. I also want to apply my fonts. So I clicked that and now all of the fonts have been applied, which is great. So I've already got that done. Let's go to the next one. We'll click color. We'll click fonts. We can click colors. Let's keep going. Oh, I like that. Let's do that. Let's see if this one, we can get that one. That's fun. Okay. Maybe we'll see if I can tweak this one also, but I like that really bright lime green. So you can just keep clicking. It's like the most fun. Let's just make this one lime green. Great. Okay. So now we've got these. Let's go to this last one. Sorry, design. Colors. Okay, you can see every single one, the third click, it goes in the same order. So it's nice. We can get even consistency here if we want. I think I missed my chance, but here we go. Nope, that's not it, but we'll change this because I like that one green the best. Okay, great. All right. So now we've got, all of our designs. They're all in the right colors. They're all in, did I do fonts? I might not have done fonts. Hold on. Here we go. So quick. Fonts changed. Fonts changed. Let's check. Fonts changed. Great. This one I did already. This one I did already. Okay, so fonts and colors have been shifted on all of these. So we're already most of the way there. Now we just need to go through and make sure that everything works. We'll change out logos and we'll change out some images. And then we've got a really great starting place. So let's start with this first one. I can already tell that the type is a little bit too light, so I'm going to bold it. The yellow is also not going to read, so we're going to change it. We always want things to be accessible and legible. If the bold feels too bold, we can always, you can see here, we've got our fonts right away. We can go between light and regular. So there's some options there. We're going to remove this logo and we're going to replace it with our Elm logo, which is in this brand panel. Let's try this one instead. I think we need it to be blue. Perfect. Okay, so and you can see it'll snap. If I move really carefully, it'll snap so I know that things are aligned. So it's going to help me so I don't, I don't put things where they're out of alignment. And then let's grab these two. You can see there's this black shape around the back. There's an effects panel here at the top in this toolbar. So we worked with Animate already. I'll click on position. So if something isn't aligned, you can use position. And then effects are some predetermined effects that you can apply to your text. So this one has a background on it. And you can see there's some settings here. We can make it more transparent. We can change how big it is, or how round the edges are. But I just want to change the color because I want to pick a different brand color for this. Let's say I want this to be the dark blue. Okay, so now I've got my dark blue here. I'm going to increase the spread just a hair because I can see on this one I maybe need a little more room. Okay. We'll scooch this down just a bit. Again, organization, we're thinking about the spacing here a bit. I do think this needs to be bold as well. Got a lot of things that are bolded. So this one I'm going to unbold. I'm going to go to regular. So you can see I'm trying to figure out the hierarchy here a bit. And then we're going to change out this image. So we're going to go down to photos. And I'm going to find a photo that I think will fit nicely in here. This couple looks nice, although they're getting covered up a bit. So maybe let's just do one more little peek. There we go. I really like her. She fits in there really nicely. Okay. So now you can see we've got a design that's starting to come along, and looks really lovely. We've got our design here. Okay. Let's go to the next one. We can do the same thing here. So let's say we want this one to be a light version. So we'll go light. We'll go over to our brand. We're going to grab our logo. We're going to put that at the top. Now we've got two templates that are the same. We do need to change our photo out. So let's put this little girl who's saving in here. And then we'll swap this one out as well. Let's find a good photo while we're in here. Maybe, let's see. So many great choices, but we want the crop to work out. Here we go. Perfect. Let's change this one so we can get a few different colors going. This will be blue. We don't need this. We can select all of our type here and select our text color palette and change them to white. We can go back to brand. So as you can see, as we're editing, everything is super easy to access because it's all in that brand palette. I don't need to go really anywhere. There's no guesswork. Everything is available really quickly. Even when I click on colors, they've already been pre-populated in here, so that I can see all of the colors already curated, which is incredibly helpful. So now we've got a bunch of designs ready to go. And as I said before, we can publish this as a brand template to reuse it, which makes it even easier. The last thing I'm going to go through are just some of the Magic Studio tools. So let's go back to this one here. And you can see up top, there's an edit tool. And this is where the Magic Studio, is available. And there's a lot that you can do. So we can, use a background remover. I'm actually going to bring in a new image. I'm just gonna, because this is already in a frame. So let's grab a fresh image out of our brand kit. Let's see what we have in here that would be a good fit. Okay, so I like this woman. There's already a shortcut for the background remover here, but let's go just for the sake of knowing where it's located. We're going to go into edit, and we're going to click background remover. And this is a design task that would take a designer a significant amount of time. And now it's really quick to automate. So we've removed the background here. We can crop it in a bit if we want, so we can get her to fit across. We can move these down if we wanted to do something like that. Let's just make it a hair bit of space here so that we can continue to play. Okay. So you can see there still is like a little bit of something here. So let's keep messing around with the studio tools. So I'm going to start with the magic eraser, and I'm going to just tell it that I want it to get rid of like those two things because they don't belong. And I'll ask it to erase that. So now those are gone. So let's go back out. Now you can see it's been cleaned up. So if there's something rogue that's been left behind, that's all you got to do. Super easy. Magic grab is another one that I think is so cool. Let's say we want to move her phone. We can select the phone. It pre-clips it out. We can grab it, and it's going to take a second here, but it'll grab the phone and I'll show you how we can then use this piece and move it around. So let's say the phone was a little bit off and we just need to adjust it a little bit over here. Or let's say we wanted it to come outside the frame even. You can do some really cool effects with this. So now we have this element loose and we can move it or shift it. I mean, it's become a free item to move around, which is very cool. Let's play with one more thing and then I'll show you Canva AI and then we'll wrap up. Let's see what else. Oh, magic expands. Okay. So let's shrink this down a bit. Hold on. Let's say that our image, we need more across here. Okay, let's leave it like this and then we'll expand. All right, so we're going to expand it over. Okay, and I'm going to say I want it to expand over to this space. So I want it to fill in here so that she can be more oriented on the right and I can get a little bit extra image over here on the left. So I've moved this in the way that I want it to fill. And then I'm going to ask it to expand. And it's going to have to make some guesses on what it thinks fits that space. But again, at a designer, it would take even as a designer, a significant amount of time to do this. So, I mean, I love this one. It just added another plant. This one, it's her kitchen. Let's do this one. We'll just add another plant in there. And now we've got it filled in. It did think that I wanted the background filled, so we have to remove the background again. But point being, we're able to really do some incredible stuff here to get this cropped. And now we've got the ability to even crop it down differently than, if we want to just have half of that plant, we can, which gives us a little bit more room. We can move this phone back, and we're in a pretty good place. So those are some of the hacks that you can use with the Magic Studio. The last thing I'll show you is the the Canva AI within the homepage. So aside from just grabbing templates or using a brand template and starting from that as your starting place, you can start from zero and just ask Canva AI to help you produce something. So what we are going to do is we're going to click on Canva AI. We're going to say design it for me. We're going to ask for a social media template. We're going to give it a reference. Like, let's say we want to use this woman again. Like, we're using her for this campaign. We need to use her again in whatever we're doing. And then this is where we would say create a social media post about mortgage rates being lower. Okay. And then let's see what it produces. So it brings us into this chat where we're going to get some proposals from the AI on what this might look like. So it's using the image that we've asked it to use. It's creating a social media post. We could be more specific on what type of social size we want. But let's say we want to use this one. We could also ask it to revise it. We could say, no, this isn't right. We need something more simple, more clean. I need something elegant, using those types of tags that we talked about with the templates earlier are really important here. Because if we give it that context, it will apply the context, and styling, and it will understand the function of the design, and it will actually leverage that in the organization of the visual communication for the piece based on what it knows about all the other templates in the library. So we want to give it as much as possible. We're a little bit vague here, but we did tell it what we wanted. We just didn't give it very many stylistic choices or direction. But we do have one here, so this one's looking good. Let's just take it and apply our brand to it so that we can see how we would leverage it if we did want to use this one, right? So now we don't want this, let's say, but we're already looking pretty good here because we've applied our brand color and our logo here. And that does a lot, honestly, just to get fonts and colors into place. Really, really does bring something from just a template into something that looks like your brand pretty quickly. So within just a minute, we had Canva create us a template that was specific. It proposed some copy. It put the image in that we had asked it to use. And then we were able to brand that template on top of it. So let's just wrap up, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts of some of those hacks that you could leverage to really make sure that you're able to move quickly. And in a nutshell, I think what's important is setting up your space right is going to make all of this faster. If you don't have your brand kit set up, even with just a few things, just with colors and just your fonts, it's going to be hard to apply those styles. As you could see in almost every single one, we applied at least the style of the color and the font, and that made a huge difference. So it doesn't have to be a really robust brand kit, but it does need to have just at least those two pieces to really help you move quickly. The workflow is really important to make sure that your process is airtight and you don't just jump into Canva too soon and get stuck. If you think about it in a methodical way and you think about how to leverage Canva as a central place to carry out your full workflow, it can be really efficient and collaborative. Work smarter with the templates and AI. AI is your friend here. Leverage it where you can. Canva's done a really good job of putting those types of AI tools into boxes that give them really clear functions and can be really applicable for non-designers to do the same high quality work that designers are doing. And then create fearlessly. It doesn't have to be perfect every time. Remember, this is about your story, and this is about organization and making sure that you visually organized the story that you want to tell. And if you are doing that in anything other than just written word, if you are incorporating color and fonts and images to tell your story, you're automatically making them just a bit more engaging, and easier for the user to feel like they want to invest in it. So, just make things, and don't worry too much, and experiment while you're in Canva and try things out. If you're not sure what a tool does, just give it a go. The last thing I'll share is that Canva is free for nonprofit. So if you are a nonprofit organization, make sure you scan the QR code and apply for a free account. This is such a valuable tool, especially with teams that do not have access to a lot of design support. You can do a lot on your own, and you can access Canva for free. So please use the QR code if you are a nonprofit organization. And thank you for coming along this journey of design with me. Just by watching this, you are already miles ahead of where you were, because it means that you want to try and get your story down and out into the world for people to see visually. So thanks for jumping in, and have a good day.